Welcome back to the Townhouse. This is going to be episode 2. Once again, this is Xavier. I'm here with Gavin and Anthony.
How's it going, Xavier?
Doing all right.
Good.
How have you guys been this week?
I've been pretty good. I stayed pretty busy. I did a lot of field work this week out for my job. And, had a good weekend. I had to take an engineering exam. Hopefully, fingers crossed that I performed well.
They don't tell you right away whether or not you passed?
They do not. You have to wait about a week.
So if you don't pass, do you get to take the test again, or are you fired?
You're fired.
No, I can take the test again. I can take the test again, yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
Solid. Gavin, what about you?
I mean, this was a pretty standard week for me. Just the usual programming stuff. We're winding down on a project that we're getting ready to release, but I had a Frisbee game on Thursday. We sucked.
Did you win?
We sucked.
Did you score any touchdowns? Is that what they call them in?
No, it's called a touchback.
I'm sorry, there's end zones there too, like in football. So
True.
I figured they'd call them touchdowns.
I mean, I've heard people call them touchdowns before. I don't know. You score points. I call it a point.
Okay. True, because I guess it's...
Most
Are they
people
scored
do.
in sevens?
No.
They're scored in single points.
So that makes sense.
So when you kick a field goal, is that like half a
No,
point?
this isn't football.
Oh, okay.
I think you're thinking of a different
You
sport.
can't kick Frisbees.
Yeah.
Come on.
Ultimate Frisbee...
Technically, you can.
Well,
Look, let's not equate it with a sport. We all know Ultimate Frisbee is a recreational activity, very similar to, other recreational activities like masturbating.
Wow.
So it was invented to bring pleasure.
Exactly. There you go. But yeah, so didn't go well. We're back on the same field, which, I don't want to blame the field, but it is one of my less preferred fields. It's at sort of an angle, kind of smaller than usual, not exactly regulation size. So yeah, I don't know. What about you, Xavier? Do anything interesting this week? Anything fun?
No, not too much. I've been getting into my MBA program, so I seem to spend every spare moment studying or hanging out with you guys or hanging out with my wife, and that's pretty much the entirety of my life outside of work. So nothing exciting like Ultimate Frisbee or failing tests and getting fired.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Anthony could have bombed the test, but if he does
true.
better than most people did that same day, that's how they do it.
That is true.
It's all about percentile.
There will always be a place on my couch for you, Anthony. Just saying.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that.
For about 3 days, and then Reba will get sick of you and kick you out.
Oh.
True. Or you'll have to pay, the entire rent.
Oh, well, if that's the case,
He's unemployed. He can't pay the rent.
Yeah, I mean, there are
In this
ways.
theoretical situation.
No, that's gross. There are ways. All right.
Well, let's go ahead and get into what our topics of discussion are going to be. Gavin, what do you have for us here?
All right, well, the first news story we're looking at this week is a man emails more than 250 Nicoles searching for a woman that he met at a bar.
Wow.
So it sounds like there's this Canadian student in Calgary, University of Calgary, apparently hit it off with a woman named Nicole at a local bar. And
Good day, eh?
Yeah.
Very good. Hey.
So he apparently took her phone number down wrong. I think it was probably a fake number, but
I would say so.
Well, let's go with his story for now.
Okay.
And so rather than just realizing that she didn't, she wasn't into it, he decided to email every girl at his school named Nicole. And so here's an actual quote from the message. If you don't fit this description, then ignore, and if you're the one and just don't want to talk to me, that's okay as well. The first person who replied removed Carlos.
Out of the table, Carlos.
Which is apparently the guy's name.
This is the guy.
From the email, and said, hey, we should all reply saying that we're the real Nicole.
That's awesome. That's hilarious.
So,
But, yeah.
this is kind of pathetic, in my opinion. I'll be honest. Like, we've all, I think, been there at some point when we're single where we have, tried to strike up a conversation with someone we're interested in and struck out, or let's say we are successful, but then we mess up important detail like getting the number, and I think you sort of go back to the drawing board and kick yourself a bit and move on, learning from your mistakes. This is a...
But what if she was the one?
True. What if this is like... I mean, he emailed everybody at the school. She must have been a pretty cool girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. Are you going to figure out who the one is in, 15, 20 minutes of talking at a bar?
Some people can. You never know. There's just like that certain connection that people have, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, as we all know, like, the one is always somebody who is, from your hometown, typically someone within a 15-mile radius that goes to the same bars as you, has the same hobbies, usually same ethnicity.
True.
Like, so I mean,
Wait,
statistically, like, I'm just saying, like, it's just so convenient that there's only one person in the world for each of us, and they just so happen to be, either from our hometown or where we went to school, or,
Yeah.
they work with us. Like, it's funny how life works that way.
True.
I think our goal with the podcast here, as this being episode 2, our goal is to sort of learn from the mistakes and missteps that we made in episode 1. The first one being, trying to keep our podcast a little more time focused. So we're going to try to keep this to maybe 20, 25 minutes as opposed to roughly 40 minutes that we had on our last one, just to cover some important stuff without boring our one listener. And once again, shout out to you, the one listener. You know who you are.
He's a real MVP there. Shout out to Carlos. Hopefully you got in contact with the correct Nicole.
I don't.
We
think
wish
we
you
did.
luck.
Very
You
sad.
never know. But, all right. So the next story we got on here is a woman claims, that the 53 wraps of cocaine found in her vagina were for personal use.
Wow.
So, from what it sounds like, this woman was apparently caught with 53 wraps of cocaine. I'm not really sure what a wrap is. I don't know.
I don't know that
Units of
measurement.
measurement.
I would
don't think they
assume
covered
it's
that
more
in-
than personal use.
I don't think that was the covered in Breaking Bad, so that is my knowledge.
Yeah, well, I mean, so she had 53 wraps of cocaine and then another 25 of heroin, it looks like. And, I mean, ultimately, these police officers saw her on some sketchy corner, like, doing some shady dealings, and they confronted her and found all of this stuff, shoved up her hoo-ha.
Wow.
So I'll be honest, I was critical of Carlos emailing all those girls, but I believe this woman. I mean, I think she probably had a good time planned, a weekend, quiet, with maybe a couple intimate friends and a lot of cocaine. There's nothing wrong with that, and it probably was for personal use.
Yeah, I mean, it might be enough cocaine to kill,
A horse and a half,
maybe
or more.
I
elephant,
don't think
but-
you kill horses with cocaine, though.
It's a figure of speech.
Yeah, it's very common,
It's
actually.
very common. Have you heard it before?
I haven't.
Well,
no.
now you have.
Enough cocaine to kill a horse?
Well,
But I don't know, Anthony, what are your thoughts? I mean, like,
that's one
Xavier
way to
believes
kind
her,
of.
but
You believe her?
I do, yeah. I think that, she just had a good time planned. I mean, well, we're not going to go there.
Personal use.
Xavier.
I would say she was probably concealing, that matter, so she could distribute. I mean,
you never know. People can be heavy users of a drug and just.
Does this article go into how this was found? That's an important detail.
Is that
I feel
her?
like we should...
Yeah, how do you find cocaine in someone's vagina?
I'm assuming.
I would assume when TSA puts the rubber gloves on.
Well,
that's
hold
what
on.
the
How do
gloves
we know
are
this
for.
was TSA? Did it say TSA was?
No, I would assume who
Well-
else searches people like
Well, okay. So my theory is maybe she was dealing, and if it's up there, how's she gonna get it? She's obviously out in public, so she's going to town, grabbing some.
that?
I mean,
I think
Somebody
we're-
could have seen this and been like, "Oh,
yes.
she's
The
dealing cocaine."
the first sentence of the article says she was stopped in the capital's West End, and we're talking London here, I believe, when officers saw 3 men and a woman following her, looking to buy drugs.
Oh my gosh, she was just using it like a pocket to deal out of, like.
Well,
That's
I mean,
what I was saying. That's what
Like
I think she was
a
doing.
sketchy person with a trench coat full of all the knockoff
Yeah, why would that
watches and
extra
everything.
stuff when it's like hot out there? You got
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, think about it, right? If you've asked your girl before, like, she usually complains about not having enough pockets. Like, most girls talk about how women's clothing just doesn't typically come with a lot of pockets. So, you gotta gotta get resourceful, it seems like.
Innovative. All right,
Yeah.
on to the next subject. We don't know measures of cocaine, sad.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to
It's
find out
probably
how
good.
much a wrap
Probably good.
is. Because if that's... I
like
mean,
a wrap, like if you get a Caesar chicken wrap or
Okay.
something
Well,
like that.
I do know that when you finish a movie, they say it's
That's
a
a
wrap.
wrap.
Exactly.
Interesting.
So it's like 2 hours worth
It's
of
like
cocaine.
I feel like
That's a
Nicolas
good.
Cage
That's a good
connecting
amount
the
of
dots.
time, right?
yeah, maybe that's it. But if a wrap is anything less than a single... Or anything more than a single serving of cocaine, then that's a
True.
hell
What
of
are
a
the
lot of
nutrition
cocaine.
facts on this?
True. Yeah, what is the serving size? How many servings per container? How many servings per wrap? Anyway,
Keep in mind what the container is.
next news story we got here. The Uranus Examiner promises to get to the bottom of stories. Wow, they're really coming at it
what
with the puns.
stories are they promising to get to the bottom of?
Well, let's read the subtext here. A town in America. Again, this is another...
Uranus Open Factory, huh?
Yeah.
I wonder if they purposely have that subliminal pickup there, or...
So, a town in America has announced the launch of its new newspaper, which has quickly become the butt of people's jokes.
Oh, yes, Daddy.
Wow, that's like
LOL.
the third pun they've made in the...
Did you pick this article, Gavin, solely for the fact that it had like 50 dad jokes in it?
I mean, so far we've had very few of our own, so I figured, 3 dad jokes right off the bat.
I would say
Hey,
we should blame Anthony for that.
Excuse me?
Those are rookie numbers. You got to pump those numbers up.
I'm sorry. I don't want to infect the mind with poor dad jokes. I want to get decent dad jokes out there. I'm not going to just spit out tons and tons of random ones that are generic.
I mean, let's keep it short and sweet on this one. Just quick opinions. What do you guys think of... The town's name is actually Uranus.
Where is it? In the U.S.?
I thought I saw it somewhere on here. I think it's like... Oh, Missouri. A
Ah,
town in
perfect.
Missouri.
Okay.
It makes sense. It would be Missouri.
Oh, okay.
Wait, why do you say that?
Uranus, Missouri?
Does it sound like a town in Missouri, or does it not?
Okay, fair enough. You got me there.
Yeah.
Can't argue with that. But yeah, I mean, what would you... Do you think it is really just a publicity stunt, or do you think it's...
Probably. They're probably thinking, we need to increase our tourist numbers. And they're like, let's get some people to come to Uranus, Missouri. When the families are showing their pictures, we could be like, we were in Uranus.
Wow. Does that count?
I think that counts.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, yes, Daddy.
We'll give him the we'll give him the little ding there.
Yeah.
Thank you. I worked hard on that one. I was really brewing that one up.
Yeah, the only other thing I can think of in Missouri that's a tourist attraction is the Big Arch.
The Arch,
It's like that
in
650
St.
foot.
Louis.
All right. Well, moving on from news stories, let's go into.
Beer
I
of the
guess
week.
it's our second week doing this, so we can now say this is our regular bit here. We're going to go into our beer of the week.
All right, what are we drinking today, boys?
So this week we have Morph from Night Shift Brewing, which is a brewery located just outside of Boston, Massachusetts, right near here. And it's an IPA, which I'm personally a fan of. What are your thoughts on it, guys?
Yeah, I think it's... I like it. It's more bitter than the one from last time.
Yes,
I
agree.
I forget what the
It
last
was
one, red something.
I don't remember.
But, I mean, it's a little more bitter, so a little more true to the IPA spirit of being something bitter. But, yeah, I don't know. I'd probably give it like a 6.5, 7.
Anthony?
I'm going to be honest. I like the other one a little bit better. This one, I don't know what it is. It might be because it's a little warm by now, but
Sad.
it's, I'd probably give it a 5.
Oh,
It's
wow.
not the worst beer I've ever had, but it's
Wow,
definitely
okay.
no land shark.
I'll be honest. I like this one better than last week's, and I think it's because it sort of fits the more stereotypical IPA. I would give it a solid 7. Not my favorite beer, but definitely a quality
I like the
addition.
can.
Yeah, the can kind of looks like an Arizona tea bottle.
Yeah.
It's like something you could get away with drinking and driving with.
Oh, don't
True.
do that. That's
Disclaimer,
bad.
we do not
We
condone
don't drink and
drinking
drive.
No, that's bad.
Don't do it.
But if you were going to do it, this might be the beer to do it
True,
But don't
yeah.
do it.
Don't do it.
No, it's unadvisable. I used a
another
big word there.
Unadvisable.
That's true.
It's a big word.
Yeah,
Even
thank
for
you.
you.
There you go.
That's
Xavier's
the word
been
of the day.
reading his dictionary before he goes to bed every night. All right, so we've got our next section. What is your favorite childhood toy?
Oh, this is a fun one.
Okay, so we're thinking like flashback to what stands out as like the, as a memorable thing that you played with as a kid, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Something. I mean, it could be any age. Let's keep it before puberty, because I know that might have changed a little bit at some point. But
True. Okay, sure. But Anthony hasn't hit puberty yet. So.
That's a very valid point, so I could technically still play with these childhood toys. So.
Okay.
yeah,
Well, so when I think back, I mean, the biggest thing for me is I loved Star Wars. So Star Wars action figures, lightsabers, like the plastic lightsabers, and, going out and playing with those with friends until I broke one, and then I got another one until I broke that one. And, I mean, I went through a lot of plastic lightsabers
Damn,
as
the
a
force
kid.
is strong with you, isn't it?
But I would say that's really the standout for me in terms of childhood toys. Beyond that, I don't know if it fits under the toy category, but Pokemon cards. I loved Pokemon cards back in the day. And
yeah.
we played Pokemon cards. Me and Gavin played Cards Through the Fence, years ago because we used to live next door to each other. And I don't know if it technically qualifies as a toy, but I would say Star Wars action figures, lightsabers, Pokemon cards. That's it for me. Those are the highlights.
Very cool, very cool, very cool. My favorite ones to play with were probably the Jurassic Park line of dinosaurs that came out, and I was about 6 years old when the
Shocking.
third movie... I know, aren't you shocked? I'm wearing a Jurassic Park shirt right now. The third movie came out when I was 6, and that was about the time when I started gathering the collection of the JP3 dinos, and oh boy, were those great. They would make sounds, it was cool, so what I would do is I had a bunch of Legos, so I had the little figurines of the characters, and then, not Jurassic Park characters, just Lego characters, and then I try to build little, sets, and I try to create my own Jurassic Park type movie with the dinosaurs that I had and make them just eat the Lego people, and I thought that was so fun. Each time I would set them all up, it would be a different scenario, different array of characters, if you will, and it was pretty fun. So,
Jurassic Park 3, those were the ones that had 3 slashes on them.
Oh,
so you
sure
knew
thing.
what movie those action
absolutely,
figures were
I got
from.
the T-Rex from it on my shelf right now.
Not to be confused with the Jurassic Park 2 toys that came out.
Unfortunately, I didn't have any of the OG Jurassic Park 2 and or Jurassic Park 1 toys. So but the 3 ones, say what you will about the movies, but the toys were, I enjoyed them. I mean, they did the trick for me. And, with the release of Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom this year, a little disappointing, but
You'll be picking up more action
the
figures.
toy lines that came out this year brought me back to when I was 6 years old, and I was like, wow.
Hasbro or Mattel?
Mattel has the rights to them now. Hasbro did have them back in the day, but I gotta say they did a really good job with the ones that came out this year. It brought me back for sure to when I was 6 years old, going into Toys R Us and or KB Toys, which we had around here, and seeing them on the shelf and that little feeling of, oh my god, there's a dinosaur. All right.
I remember.
Heartwarming, really.
Very heartwarming.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's probably more cliche, but I really enjoyed Lincoln Logs and Legos, things like that.
Yep.
I liked building structures along those lines. And then, I mean, what kid doesn't love riding his bike? I used to have a mongoose with
nice.
the big spring in the middle, so you could go off of, jumps and stuff like that and land without, completely destroying whatever was between your legs at that point in your life.
Playing Lincoln Logs with Gavin was a dangerous activity, if I remember correctly, because Lincoln Logs were projectiles in addition to being building blocks for your little log cabin you were creating.
Oh, true.
So, I mean, back in the day, I did build, normal Lincoln Log towns, but my brothers and I, and I'm sure this is what Xavier's referring to, is he got involved a few times. When we got bored enough, or it was a rainy day, we would have Lincoln Log fights, where we would set up forts on each end of the room and basically hurl Lincoln Logs at each other. and usually one of my other brothers would start hoarding them, or I would hoard them, and so sometimes you would have to run across the room to go grab stuff out of their stash and dive back into your little foxhole. And that was always a fun and dangerous activity. But,
oh yeah, I can see how that could be dangerous.
At that
It's
age,
only dangerous if you get hurt.
well, exactly. And we
That's
had
a
our
way to
like
look at it, yeah.
our toy like fireman helmets on and things like that.
Oh, so you got the proper
We were
protection.
totally safe.
You're totally safe,
You know what
yeah.
I mean? Got those like plastic construction worker toys with like the
Oh, yeah.
the safety goggles. You know?
Oh, perfect. Protect those eyes.
Yeah, I think my brother actually wore a real pair of swim goggles one time when we were doing a Lincoln Log fight.
That's even more protection if you think about it, because it's real, not
True.
fake plastic that could just. Why is no? It
Yeah.
could be
We-
real plastic.
Fake
were-
plastic as opposed to the real plastic.
The real plastic, exactly. You know.
Yeah, so I mean,
All right, so what's next on the agenda, Gavin? I think you've got the big question for us this week, and we'll try to tackle it fairly quickly here to give our one listener a little bit of time to breathe. But what are we discussing here?
well, this one's not so much a philosophical question, but it's more of a like if we set up a little hypothetical scenario, with the discussion of how much more important college has become in our modern day, when does it become a worthwhile investment? Like, how many years out of school does it take to sort of break even with what you would have made if you didn't go to college? And so, for me to like set up a few of the variables here, let's just assume somebody's going to a 4-year school, paying $50,000 a year, and how we can talk about percentages and student loans or scholarships or whatever, versus if you were working, 4 years during that time and then the years following that. Like, at what point does that college degree really make the difference, do you think?
I think it for sure helps you nowadays get a job. That's the thing I feel like that sets back. Like, if you're going in for an interview and it's you versus one other person, you have the college degree for this job, this other person doesn't, that the college degree itself gives you that leeway over that other person. However, that is true. You are going to be, in debt for however many years, depending on if you get scholarships or not. I mean, say you're paying all of this out of pocket, no scholarships, everything, that's $200,000 that you're going to be having to pay back over a 10-year period, let's say.
Yeah, and these numbers aren't totally, just pulled out of my ass. Like, it costs most schools in this area, at least in Massachusetts, which is an educational hub. We have a lot of colleges up here. It does cost about $50,000 a year at most places.
If not more.
Yeah, some places are more. I think like Northeastern's
like in the 60s,
60s, 70s,
62, yeah, 65.
which is it's crazy to think about. But
Yeah, I would say 50,000 is reasonable estimate of what schools cost. I mean, that's I went to school in Michigan, and that was about what I was looking at.
yeah,
Yeah.
before everything else. But I don't know. Like, do you guys have any sort of insight on this? Like, do you want me to elaborate more on my numbers here?
No, well, my insight is I would say that the college education still hasn't fully panned out into a benefit for me. That's why I'm going into an MBA program. But that said, I don't think that there's any advantage that I would have had without the education that I was somehow missing out on, or am at this time missing out on. So I mean, your income potential, I feel like, might be more limited, but I guess your argument is, you're starting in less of a hole to sort of dig yourself out from, right?
As an example of what I was thinking of, at least, was, let's say you want to get certified as a mechanic, and it costs a couple $1,000s to do that. I know I used to work at a marina up in New Hampshire on Lake Winnipesaukee, and you could get your certification in a certain type of boat, and you go to a 6-week program down in like Florida or something like that, and the company actually pays for it if you've been working there in some other role, like a detailer or something. But you go down there, take a 6-week course, and you come back and you're a certified boat mechanic. And I know, at least where I was working, they charged customers $125 an hour. Now, the mechanics didn't get paid all of that. Obviously, that goes into a lot of overhead costs and things. But even as an employee, not owning your own business, those mechanics were probably making like $50 an hour with zero college experience. So even if they shelled out their own money, and let's say it cost them $5,000, right off the bat, making $25 an hour, 25 bucks, so that's either $1,000, right? Or if you're making $50, that's $2,000 a week, right?
Yep.
And let's say you work 50 weeks in a year, you're almost breaking six figures as a mechanic. Something that, I think in our society, the general public tends to look down on blue collar jobs a little bit, and I never really understood why. Like, people who go into plumbing, mechanics, electricians, people like that, they make good money.
They do. And where would you be without them?
Yeah, exactly. They're important jobs. And I'm not saying, everybody needs a boat necessarily, but same thing with cars. With that kind of experience, you could be making $50,000 a year or more just by doing a basic trade job. Now, not all jobs are going to pay like that. You might be making a little less. And obviously, there are some jobs, with little experience and you're only making minimum wage, and I think that comes to around $28,000 a year or something. Mm-hmm. So if we base it purely on minimum wage jobs, then sure, people coming out of college, I think the average are between $40,000 and $50,000.
But I think that there's limitations on this. The biggest one being there's nowhere to go. There's nowhere to climb from here. So if you're working as a mechanic, let's say a boat mechanic or a car mechanic, there's no next step up. So you're going to be a mechanic for the rest of your career. And I would say some people have a passion for that. I know someone that used to be a roommate of mine who was just a complete gearhead, loved cars, loved everything about them, and, had his own car that he tinkered on in the garage. And for people like that, this might be just the greatest thing ever. But for a lot of people, I think that for me specifically, for example, that drive towards the next step in my career, that drive towards my strong performance leads to a benefit in the form of a raise, in the form of a promotion. That's important for me. That's a motivator for me, and that helps me reach for the measures of success that will propel me to that next step.
I think, as a counter argument at least, if you're an employee of someone, if you work for a big company, if you just to drop a few, if you were working at Jiffy Lube or Meineke or something like that, sure, if you choose to work like that the whole time, then there's not a whole lot of growth potential. But there is the opportunity, once you learn the trade, to become an entrepreneur. Yep. Start your own car, if you're a mechanic, and open
your own shop.
We're overusing this example, but you open your own shop, and then maybe you get a great customer base, and you make your own hours. You can certainly make a lot more money that way, if you own your own business. What are the trade-offs here? Because there are certainly opportunities to make a lot of money, without digging yourself into a big hole debt-wise in college.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. But to bring it full circle, I think there are a lot more reasons to go to college than purely job training. And
I would agree with that.
A lot of people do. But, intramurals, the friendships you build, education. People are so focused on job training, and they forget, some of the classes, I look back on a lot of classes that I took that I'm not using in my career that I thought were great classes, Mm-hmm. Things that I was really interested to learn from somebody with a lot of experience. That's something to keep in mind too. So.
Yeah, and I can speak to that part especially. I did a psychology major in college, and now I'm working in finance, and it doesn't directly translate into my job, but it definitely, in my day-to-day interactions, be it with coworkers, be it with managers, be it with my friends and family, my daily interactions, my understanding of human psychology plays in some small way into pretty much every interaction that I have every day. I definitely see the benefit on both sides. I think you have to look at the additional benefits beyond the job training to really see a benefit on the college argument.
Yeah, I agree. I think definitely going to a 4-year college, you know, it stays with you for a long time. Like, the memories that you make in college will last with you. Like you said, some classes that you take that don't relate to your major are interesting. I mean, I had a few that where I was like, oh, wow, this is pretty cool. I'm glad I took this course. But then there's the other part of it where you have to take these general ed courses where you just have no interest in whatsoever.
Definitely, I think that really brings it full circle, though. You know, any final thoughts?
I don't think so. I think the only thing I would say, sort of to springboard us into maybe something that we'll discuss next time or at some point in the future on a podcast is, you know, Anthony's talking about his college experience. And I think that we could definitely hear a bit more about that. What do you think,
About
Anthony?
my college experience? I don't think I'm the most interesting person. So, I mean, I'd like to hear more about your college experience, considering we didn't go to school with you, even though you did spend a good amount of time at Merrimack with us.
I feel like
You-
I went to school with you.
You
I
feel like
definitely
you
feel
did.
like
However,
was
I feel
there.
like we don't know as much about your
That's
your
true.
days
Well,
in a fraternity and all that
Oh gosh,
fun stuff.
some things are best left in the past. But yeah, this may be a viable discussion for the future. Absolutely,
Definitely.
Great. Well,
I
that's
think
a good,
I
wrap-up
think
point.
that pretty much concludes
This
the
episode.
agenda for us here. So once again, to our one listener, thank you so much.
Thank you. We appreciate all the listeners that we can
yeah,
get.
all
Oh.
one of you.
Yeah, all one of you, and thank you for
I believe
sticking
that there's
through
more,
all the way
don't
to the
worry.
end once again. So we haven't scared him off yet, or her, the one listener, who will remain ambiguous. But once again, this is Xavier, Gavin, Anthony, and this has been the Townhouse. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.